Arizona State surprisingly finished second in the Pac-12 South in 2018. But can they compete for first place in 2019? Find out here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.
It's already been a year and I still love this Herm Edwards hire at Arizona State. A lot of people didn't have faith in him going into 2018, but he led the Sun Devils to a 7-5 regular season and a second-place finish in the Pac-12 South. And that does not sound like a bad hire to me. And in 2019, the Sun Devils could be even better. Even though they lose Manny Wilkins at quarterback, they do return 8 starters on the offensive side of the ball, and their quarterback will either be true freshman Jaden Daniels or Dylan Sterling Cole. And I personally believe it will be Jaden Daniels. I think he will fit this Herm Edwards offense perfectly, and whoever the quarterback is, regardless of who it is, they will have plenty of help. Mostly led by Eno Benjamin at running back, who quietly racked up 1,600 yards and 16 touchdowns on the ground for the Sun Devils last season. No one talked about him in 2018. They will be talking about him in 2019. And yes, they do lose N'Keal Harry, who was the 32nd overall pick to the Patriots in the NFL draft, but they do bring back Brandon Ayuk, who will be the new leading wide receiver for the Sun Devils in 2019. So plenty of help offensively despite starting a new quarterback for the Sun Devils. Defense, though, they have to work on stopping the run. They returned 7 starters, but last year allowed 171 rushing yards per game. That's going to be a problem for Arizona State. If they can't fix that, they might not be able to improve that much in 2019. But I think Herm Edwards is going to be able to figure that out. And most of these Pac-12 teams have very talented quarterbacks and will rely more on the pass. So they need to focus more on that passing defense more than anything. They start off the season 2-0, though. Kent State and Sacramento State should not give the Sun Devils much of an issue whatsoever. But then they go on the road to Michigan State. And if you remember last year, it was week 2, and that became the signature victory for Herm Edwards in his first season with the Sun Devils. And that was the victory that I think showed people that Herm Edwards was the real deal. A lot of people that criticized him, saying that the man hadn't coached football in nearly a decade, wasn't going to be able to do well at Arizona State, and he upset the number 15 ranked Spartans 16-13. The problem is this year they go on the road to Michigan State, and Michigan State is also a very experienced team and will boast one of the best defenses in the entire Big Ten. 9 offensive starters, 8 defensive starters. In week 3, they're going up against, they're facing an Arizona State team that's going to have a fairly young quarterback regardless of who it is. And it's going to be their first true test being on the road. I don't like this for the Sun Devils. Lightning will not strike twice. They will fall to the Spartans, who will also be out for revenge after losing last season. In a year that a lot of people had high hopes for them, but ended up disappointing for a myriad of reasons, mostly due to injuries and poor quarterback play from Brian Lewerke. But that quarterback play steps up. The defense steps up. Michigan State and Mark D'Antonio beat the Sun Devils. Arizona State 2-1 going into Pac-12 play. They faced off against Colorado, a team they lost to 28-21 last year. And that's kind of hard to believe, but keep in mind, Colorado looked really, really good early on last year, starting the season 5-0 before finishing the season 5-7, missing out on a bowl game. In comes Mel Tucker, who will boast a pretty decent offense in 2019. And while he's a defensive-minded coach, I don't think the defense gets there this season, especially not in week 4. Arizona State getting to host this game with the Buffaloes, who will be dealing with a bunch of changes, gets the win, and they are 3-1 going on the road to face off against California. And once again, this is where the quarterback play is going to play such a huge role. If Jaden Daniels or Dylan Sterling Cole, whoever it is, really steps up and surprises us early on in the season, then I think Arizona State could do a lot better than what I might be predicting. But going on the road to California, they're facing off against one of the best defenses in the Pac-12 and one of the best secondaries in the entire nation. So the passing game will struggle mightily on the road against the Golden Bears. That's good news for Eno Benjamin, who could have a very breakout game against the Golden Bears. But you can expect this defense. Justin Wilcox, being a head defensive coach, usually has boasted a top defense at California his past 2 years, has boasted a decent defense the past 2 years, I should say, will hone in on the run game and force whoever it is to win this game through the air. And when you're going up against such a great secondary in California, that's going to be tough to do. Even though California does not have a decent offense, the defense will play the biggest role in this game, and Arizona State will fall on the road to California. That will drop them to 1-1 in conference play. They get a much-needed bye week before they go on the road to face off against Washington State, who's also coming off a bye week coming into this game. But if you look, Arizona State owns the benefit of hosting this game. They get to host the Cougars, and while Washington State will still be a dangerous threat in the Pac-12, they will not be as good as they were last year when they won 11 games. Arizona State, with a week of rest, with this game being at home, gets the win over the Cougars in a game that I really think Eno Benjamin steps it up big. I think he thrashes through this Washington State defense, who has been fairly underrated during Mike Leach's time there, but will not be able to get the job done here. So Eno Benjamin going to be a major factor in the success of the Sun Devils in 2019, but he gets the job done against the Cougars. And ASU is 4-2 going into to a game against Utah. And last year, when Arizona State faced off against Utah, they won 38-20. But the Utes lost their star quarterback and Tyler Huntley that game. This is a major revenge game for the Utes because Huntley will be back this season. Assuming he can stay healthy, you know he will want to win this game more than anything. This game also being on the road does not benefit the Sun Devils, and Utah across the board, on offense and on defense, is going to be one of the most talented teams in the entire Pac-12. They are the legitimate surprise team in 2019. They could very well win the Pac-12 and could very well be a dark horse playoff contender. Arizona State won by 18 last year. They will not win by that much this year. They will not win at all this year. They will fall to the Utes on the road, and not many people will be beating the Utes this season. They're going to be extremely tough to beat in 2019. They go back on the road, though, to face off against UCLA, a team that Arizona State barely beat last year, winning just 31-28. Last year, UCLA was pretty abysmal, went 3-9. But keep in mind, those 3 wins came in Pac-12 play, and Chip Kelly's team really started to click and get a lot more competitive towards the end of last season. They're carrying a little bit of momentum into 2019. They returned 19 starters in 2019, and I think Arizona State falls, maybe a little bit hungover after this Utah loss, falls to the Bruins, who I think will take major steps forward and will really improve this season. They fall, their second straight loss to UCLA. So 1-2 after their first bye week, but then they get a big time bye week to close out the year with 4 remaining games. They face off against USC at home, and this is a game that is very winnable for Arizona State, no doubt in my mind. Last year against USC, they beat the Trojans 38-35, and that was a game highlighted by N'Keal Harry's insane catch against that Trojan secondary. A week of rest here benefits them. This game being at home benefits them. I mentioned the rushing defense for Arizona State, how they're going to have to step up. This is a game where their secondary is going to have to step up more than anything. Now that Graham Harrell comes in with a somewhat decent quarterback in JT Daniels, a somewhat experienced quarterback in year 2, new air raid offense, USC will be throwing the ball a lot in this game. So Arizona State's defense is going to have to step it up. But at home, off a bye, I like the odds for this one. Arizona State beats the Trojans, who will have a hot seat coach, and Clay Helton, as I like to say, hot seat Helton, going into 2019. The question is, how long will it last over the course of the season? Will he make it to the end of the season? That remains to be seen. Arizona State goes back on the road to face off against Oregon State, a team that no one can afford to overlook. A team that I think any team that has to go visit the Beavers needs to be on upset watch. Because while Oregon State has been practically irrelevant the past few years in the Pac-12, this is the year 2 under Jonathan Smith, that they are going to take major strides forward in terms of their competitiveness. You might not see that in the win column. That's because their schedule is so difficult. But they're going to compete. And if they can get a couple things to go their way, they could surprise some people in terms of how many games they win. They return Jake Luton, they return Jamar Jefferson, they return a lot of wide receivers, a great core of wide receivers, and a defense that returns 9 starters total. But in the end, their rushing defense, kind of like Arizona State's, was not that good in 2018. Their defense period was not that good. I expect it to improve, but not enough. Arizona State goes on the road and gets a huge win over the Beavers. They remain home for their final 2 games against Oregon and Arizona. Now, Oregon, this is a team that Arizona State has come so close to beating in recent years and has gotten a couple wins, but they've had some classic games between the Sun Devils and the Ducks. Last year especially was a classic, lost by 2 to Oregon with a chance to win the Pac-12 South. Just 2 points, 31-29. Oregon will boast one of the best offenses in the entire nation, will boast one of the best teams in the Pac-12. Could very well be a top 10 team at this point in the season, led by Justin Herbert, led by C.J. Verdell, led by a defense that I think is going to be pretty dangerous in 2019. But Arizona State, this game at home, revenge on their mind. They pull off a huge upset against the Ducks at home because, like I mentioned, home field advantage will play such a huge role in this. Arizona State has been the one team that has given Oregon fits. Maybe the Ducks have pulled one out like they did last year, but the games have been close. A 2-point loss last year. I think it was a 2-point victory for Arizona State the year before, and then a triple overtime loss to the Ducks just a few years ago. They've hung with Oregon, and they're going to get their win this year after narrowly losing to them last year, and could very well ruin Oregon's college football playoff chances towards the end of the season. Then they faced off against their rival in Arizona last year, an absolute thriller between these two. Arizona State coming back down 40-21 in the fourth quarter to win that game 41-40 and kept Arizona at home for the holidays, preventing the Wildcats from going to the postseason. This year, Arizona State gets to host Arizona, and while I do expect the Wildcats to take major strides forward in year 2 under Kevin Sumlin, assuming that Khalil Tate can be healthy because he was never 100% last year, even though I do expect them to take those major strides forward, they're not going to have enough to come on the road and beat this Arizona State team. I think whoever's at quarterback, whether it's Daniels or Sterling Cole, has found their stride. They're grooving. Eno Benjamin not going to stop anytime soon. And I think this Arizona State team is extremely dangerous, and they get a win over the Wildcats. And they close out the year 8-4 in 2019. And I think that's going to be a pretty big shock for a lot of people. You know, last year they go 7-5, 7-6 if you count the bowl loss to Fresno State. Now they're 8-4, potential 9-win team if they can win their bowl game. Herm Edwards has this team going in the right direction. The scary thing is, this is a somewhat young team. Whoever's at quarterback is going to be there for a long time. So this is a fairly young team for the Sun Devils. He's building something out in the desert, and it will continue to grow. Herm Edwards was my favorite hire last year. People didn't like it, but he has proven the doubters wrong, and he will once again do that again in 2019. I cannot wait to see what he has in store for the Sun Devils. So guys, as always, thank you for watching us here. Go check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert. And of course, go check us out on our official website, thegridironexpert.com. Go sign up for our newsletter and sign up for our expert picks. For just $30, you will get every single one of our college football spread picks for the 2019 season, including the postseason. So I can promise you that's a deal and an opportunity you do not want to pass up. So join our team and go sign up today only at thegridironexpert.com. And guys, as always, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.